Hi guys, welcome back to CMD and another video. You join me in the Tesla Model Y. For those of you who are new to CMD, I did a video with this car roughly about a year ago now. I've been living with it for over 18 months and it is time to say goodbye. So relatively self-explanatory in that instance, but a little bit more on that later. Just to try and give some context, 16,500 miles covered, over 4,500 kilowatt hours of energy. My average energy consumption over that time is 275 watts per mile. That'll be all different types of driving, motorway, school runs, commuting, and everything in between. If you haven't seen the previous video, please go and check that one out. That was very much an initial impressions, but now I've spent this much time with the car, it is about to go. I thought it'd be really useful just for the channel, just to give my sort of overall thoughts and findings on the ownership experience. There have been good and bad. It is quite literally 50-50. In true CMD style, probably the best way to do that is to take you for a drive. So let's go. So I think the best place to start is certainly with the good, okay? Because there are good things about this car, and some of them really are better than anything else I've driven, used, lived with, etc. And the first for me is just ease of access and usability. So when you get to the car, essentially your mobile phone is your key. There is a card in case anything should fail, but if your phone's on Bluetooth, the car is Bluetooth, it knows you're there. When you open the door handle, the car opens. It knows who you are, it knows your seat setting, and the technology essentially kicks in. The seat will be far back until you push the car into drive on the stalk. You'll lock yourself in and you'll drive away. The level of faff is non-existent. You know, in a busy day-to-day life, the just ease of using this thing has really been really nice in comparison to much more analog experiences, or even just the basics of using a key can seem quite hard work when you've been to something like this that's just super easy to get in and out of. From a technology perspective, obviously Tesla are market leading in this respect. They are so far ahead of most things that I use, arguably too far ahead, subject to your preference. But where the Tesla sort of excels in itself is that this car is actually more usable and easier now than when I first had it, because the technology has developed and Tesla is creating shortcuts all the time. So I'll give you an example. The wipers, in theory, to operate the wipers you have a stalk, but if I tap the stalk for the wipers, I then get a shortcut which is just on my roller, so I can either go to sort of between 1 and 4 on the settings, auto or off, but that's just on the wheel on my hand now. And so you don't have to go looking on the screen to tap things, which historically was the case. The shortcuts weren't as easy to find, and the technology develops much like your phone upgrades. The whole screen on entrance to this car and what it can do and what it's capable of is constantly moving with the technology. It downloads a new update and the car will quite simply do more things than before. So from a, you know, how it operates, what it does, I think that's really good. The technology is very strong. It's too much screen for me. I would like a few basic buttons. Call me old-fashioned, and that's really just subjective preference, so I don't think you necessarily criticise the car for that. It's just my opinion. The other thing that this car does better than pretty much anything I've ever owned for a car of its size is take load as well. So this car can comfortably carry 4 adults with luggage without any hesitation, any drama at all. It's extremely spacious, there's huge load space, and when I have used it as a workhorse, it has, you know, it inhales volume. You can fold the seats completely flat. It's a huge load space. My wife drives a Range Rover Sport, previous generation to the new car, and this will take loads more in the boot. If you had to, you know, transport an awful lot of goods, you could do a lot worse than the Model Y. And you get a frunk as well, which is, to be honest with you, I use the frunk for most things because the boot is so big, everything rattles around in there. Throw my work bag in the frunk every morning with my lunch. It's, you know, it's no drama, it's much easier. The final last really good part about Tesla and quite frankly the network is the charging. On the times where I travel into London, or I've caught myself short with range. Things have changed, plans have changed. In the deep winter, obviously you don't get the sort of range that you can expect in the summer. On any occasion where I've needed to use a supercharger, the network, how that operates, how it charges the car, the functionality, again, the ease of Tesla has come up top trumps. I quite literally put my trip into my nav. It'll tell me where I can expect to charge. It'll then prep the battery on the way to the charger, tell me how many are available. When I get there, there's no open this, register your card, any of that nonsense. My credit card is already linked. I plug the car in and it supercharges, and the rate at which it does that is, you know, go to the gents, grab yourself a coffee, you know, quick phone call, reply to some emails if you need to, and the car's picked up 100 miles worth of range, and on you go. So from that perspective, you know, if I was doing an awful lot of miles, which admittedly I'm not anymore, so circumstantial change, but I really don't do the sort of mileage that I was expected to do when I took the car on. So that's the good stuff, okay? Genuinely hasn't been all that bad. But on that note, let's get to the not so good stuff. The only thing I can really pick this car apart for, but it is so overwhelming at times that it becomes infuriating, is the ride. It's doing it now. I'm doing 36 mile an hour on what is a relatively flat road, and the whole car is fidgeting. I can feel it through my hands, I can feel it through my seat. Any undulation, any slight rattles the entire car. It is fidgety, does not explain the ride. And I know what Tesla have done, okay, the trade-off is that it's very dynamic, okay, if you push on, okay, the car holds the road, and that's lovely, but that's not what I want from my mid-sized SUV family car, okay? It can waft all day long, but the ride in this is so infuriating to live with, genuinely. Maybe I'm being oversensitive about it. You know, that again, this is my subjective opinion, okay, before the internet goes absolutely insane at me. And if you're just using it to go up and down the motorway, it's a great tool, okay? You probably won't notice it that much. High speed, obviously you lose a lot of that. But day to day, this thing's existence for me just is, you know, if you're using it as a school run car, or, you know, for all sorts of things, you know, that even the kids don't want to get into it because they deem it uncomfortable. And actually the seats in the back are fantastic. They can lean right back. You know, like I said earlier, there's an awful lot of space. But actually, again, the whole car, if one wheel gets unsettled, you know about it everywhere. And because you're that little bit higher up, obviously the centre of gravity is higher, and the seats aren't that comfortable in that they're not that supportive, okay? So they're pleather. You get two adjustments, which is your bottom and top, and the back of the headrest is actually pretty hard. I mean, I've ended up with like a pillow just to try and sort of, if I've got to spend a lot of time in the car, relax. But again, the ride is that fidgety that you find your head sort of up and down, which is better admittedly than getting a knock on the back of the head, which is where you end up. But it's capable of pressing on, but I just don't know why you would want to if you had a car like this. That's not what you buy a car like this for. When we first had the car arrive and I drove it, I thought that they'd forgotten to take the blocks out of the suspension. I genuinely got the car up on ramps and I was adamant that's what they'd done, because there's no way the car should ride this way. That was my take on it. Turns out I was wrong. And I have heard that the newer versions of the car have got softer suspension. How accurate that is or not, I don't know. I have driven a newer version, it felt exactly the same to me, but what do I know, okay? There's a retrofit air suspension kit. It's about $3.5 grand before you fit the thing, all right, but not going down that route, okay? The car, you shouldn't have to look at going down that route. The car should just be a little bit more settled and subdued. And actually, if it was, I think I'd be happy as Larry in it. I really do. But, and there's no bittersweet about this, the car is going. So to give that some context, it isn't up for the end of its lease for another 12 months. I have made the decision to suffer a financial consequence to get myself out of it. And call that a first world problem if you will. Arguably, that is accurate. I don't disagree with you. And lucky me, right? But I know I'm not alone. When I was speaking to the lease company, quite a few of these end up going back and get early termination. Is there a reason for that? Am I alone? The internet will probably tell me that I am. But I don't think that's the case. So in summary, fantastic family car, great commuter, ridiculous up and down the motorway, things like the cruise control, autopilot, all very clever, fantastic. The driving experience over the long term, a bit like Chinese water torture. Just that constant little niggle. You never really settle in the car, you never really relax in it, because the ride doesn't allow you to. It handles really well. Case in point, big right-hander, sweepy one. Lovely. Utterly pointless. Because now, I'm wobbling because the car's unsettled. And you can't have your cake and eat it, can you? Can't be the high-end performance car and the comfortable SUV. But we know it can, because Porsche Cayennes and Range Rovers can do that. Sports are not a huge amount bigger than this car. So Tesla lead the way in technology, but fall short when it comes to the soul of a car and what it should sort of give you in driving dynamics. I just don't think they've geared the suspension up for a UK road. And that's it. So this goes tomorrow. It's been collected. I'll wave goodbye, bid it farewell, and refer to this as a learning experience. The question really for me now is what's next? I still need a commuter. I'm not adverse to another EV. It's certainly very cost efficient. So, you know, a lot of accountants would drive these cars, I'd imagine, with good reason. The numbers make sense. But what's next? I'll let you know when I know. That's it from me, guys, for today. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're new to CMD and you haven't seen one of our videos before, we've been set up as a YouTube channel with a difference. All of the revenue that we generate from the channel lands into a designated bank account. All of those monies, every single penny, is donated to local, national and international charities and good causes. On the 31st of May 2024, we made a donation for £1,500 to Dreams Come True, a UK-based charity looking after the most vulnerable children here in the United Kingdom. And that's all off the back of people like you watching videos like this. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you soon.